Next, we have Hitesh and Murad, who are going to take you through the technologies of the future and sort of what's going to happen there. Murad is an entrepreneur in residence in a VC firm. He's been he's a strategy advisor to a number of startups. He's ex-Deloitte. Hitesh is a very good friend and a founder. He runs two companies. He is a VC investor. Look him up on LinkedIn. He does these amazing array of write-ups on how the technologies of the future are evolving. Guys, over to you. I am going to mute myself and give everyone a respite from hearing my voice now.
Thanks so much for that warm introduction, Shraddha.
My pleasure.
Murad, can you hear me?
Yep, Hitesh, I can.
Great to see you again, man. So Murad, I think for the audience's benefit, technologies of the future, things are changing so rapidly. Maybe you could provide some visibility in the noise. So ChatGPT, Bard, Bernie, FTX, Roblox, Fortnite. There's so much floating around in this space of technologies of the future. I know from our discussions, you've chosen 3 of them for 2023 that we must watch out for, which are regenerative AI, the immersive metaverse, and blockchains. Why did you pick these trends for 2023 and not the other ones?
Okay, hi everyone. Pleasure to be here. Primarily, if you look at technology over the course of decades, right, there's 3 main themes that are underlying all technology evolution. That is interaction, and that is computation, and that is information, right? So when we look at interaction, the way we interact with people kind of went from using your screens, iPhone screens, to wearing headsets, which is more leading towards the metaverse side of things, and that got accelerated in the COVID. So that's why metaverse, the evolution of metaverse is something that I feel very strongly will influence our lives, and it is. The second thing is obviously information. We've always taken data from the internet and use that data to make decisions. And obviously what is happening over time is that data has become, previously it was very look back data. So you would look at data and then analyze it. But now increasingly with machine learning, you started to do predictive modeling, which was like looking at data and then predicting what could happen in the future, but within a tolerance range. But now you have a third generation of AI, which is kind of moving towards exponential intelligence, where you are saying, okay, not only am I going to tell you what is happening, but I want you to take what the data is and create new data, right? So it's kind of autonomous learning, and that is quite a big shift in terms of the abundance of intelligence and the democratization of AI. That's why I've chosen regenerative AI and the impact it would have. And then the third thing is obviously computation. So you had the cloud, which was primarily democratized how you compute everywhere. Previously when I used to run startups, I used to have to buy servers. Now I can just plug into an Amazon cloud, and I can have a business up and running very quickly. And that also means that I can have a business which can scale very quickly, right? So I can use all kinds of services on the cloud, and then I can have customers anywhere in the world, right? I could have customers in the US, in India, in China. Well, not China actually, because they have a restriction on cloud, but anyway, in the GCC as well. So that democratization of services through the cloud, the next step in that is obviously blockchain, right? Which is primarily democratization of information, but in a secure and trustworthy manner. And that's why I've chosen the blockchain, because that will actually create new business models like the central bank digital currencies, which would be an evolution of the way banking works, and Web3, which is primarily all about the customer owning their data, their assets, everything in a wallet, and moving away totally from a centralized infrastructure.
Well, that's awesome insight, Murad. Thanks for that. I'm very, very interested in the intersection between AI and Web3. I mean, if you just consider it, AI to increase your productivity, Web3 to ensure that decentralization and blockchains to verify that those transactions are happening securely, and boom, you have a match made in heaven. So let's move on to you being an entrepreneur and resident entrepreneur at your VC fund. So wearing both these hats, how do you see the opportunities evolving in a broad field? And what are some of the promising use cases that you've seen in recent times?
Okay, so you know, most VC firms are thesis driven, and we are also a thesis driven firm. We invest mostly in early series A, late series A, primarily because we want to have a certain degree of equity stake in those companies. But when I look at the three areas that we are obviously investing in, the important thing for me, you know, is primarily looking at businesses and trying to work out what are the use cases which are going to scale. That is really very, very important. So three cases, I mean, we don't have much time, but three top use cases which I feel will really avail some of the technologies that we are talking about. In the case of large language models like ChatGPT, compliance will be a big benefactor and advisory, right? But I'll just pick on compliance. And compliance within the financial services. If you look at financial services today, they have 50,000 regulations that they have to overcome. And so what happens is that if you look at the Dodd-Frank Act and some of the MiFID II stuff that came out in the US and in Europe, what this has done is it's really stifled the ability of companies to, you know, actively look at compliance. So there's still a lot of anti-money laundering happening. I think there's about $2 trillion that gets laundered every year. And 16% of what financial services have in terms of their expenses goes into compliance in terms of headcount. And the reason is that because the systems underlying are not able to scale. So I believe that, you know, things like ChatGPT will be able to create very intelligent alerts and be able to, you know, reduce the number of false positives that are happening in these organizations. And that's kind of one use case. The second two use cases, obviously, the centralization of traditional financial services and the decentralized finance, right? So the confluence of these two things coming together. So how do traditional people who are investing in banks move their money from banks to crypto and then back from crypto to bank, right? That kind of process becoming seamless. But not only that, how do you make it so efficient that you can do it, you know, with the risk management frameworks that are being applied and maturely developed in the traditional space can seamlessly be applied to the new space, which is decentralized finance, right? Cryptos. That use case. And then the second one is obviously central bank digital currencies, because this is where the central banks have realized that, you know, we need to have one currency which we can provide, which can be used to provide settlement all the time. And in the South, in UAE, you have the ABER project, and in the UAE and Saudi Arabia, they're developing a cross-border settlement system between themselves. And then the third one is obviously metaverse, right? So what is happening is that obviously when I used to play on my Commodore 64, which was many, many years ago, I remember that, you know, games were created and you used to just play them, right? But now what is happening is that if you look at some of the games like Roblox and Fortnite, not only can the user create content with the help of AI, but it is actually, we are moving towards a kind of game where a lot of the content will be generated dynamically by the AI engine.
That's 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
That's a phenomenal kind of.
Sorry.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Murad. Thanks for that. So maybe I'll just skip my question and go to the last part of what we wanted to talk about, which are the risks. So
Yep.
Let's focus on two technologies, or let's focus on two advancements like ChatGPT and CBDCs. How do you think they're going to impact traditional finance systems and beyond? I mean, just buzzwords that come to mind when thinking about CBDCs are replicating a new banking system, challenging the US dollar, surveillance states, regulations, and ChatGPT has a dark side to it. I mean, job displacements and deep fakes. Could you please share some more so we understand, at least our stakeholders understand what risks are involved in these new technologies?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the banking infrastructure, obviously, as you get these new digital currencies coming up, you are going to have new digital infrastructures being developed, which might try to displace the traditional infrastructure, right? All the payments today in the world are carried over SWIFT, but imagine digital payment rails coming through. So then you don't have to rely on SWIFT, right? So if US embargoes a country, guess what? If they have a digital currency payment rail, they can start paying people or other countries over that. So that's one thing. And that also means that the dominance of US dollar is diminished, because as these central bank digital currency evolve, you know, banks can start moving away from dependency on pricing everything in dollars to, you know, pricing something which is very much their own and something which their economics they drive and they understand, right? They don't have to work on the global. So there's going to be a, you know, the globalization is going to break and you're going to have regionalization. And on the ChatGPT side, it's more about job displacement, right? So AI will not replace you, but a person using AI will replace you. So some of the jobs that are going to really be impacted by this, especially in the creative space, are marketing or software development. And so what I would encourage people to do is to look at these technologies, but look at them in a way of how they can, you know, you can use these technologies to create more problem solving, move more towards problem solving domain rather than towards somewhere where you have to write stuff and create stuff, because a lot of that will be taken away from the people.
So can I just, Hitesh, will you talk a little bit about VARA before we log off? Because it might be a lot of interest to people on the call.
Sure.
Just 1 minute.
Sure. So VARA is the Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority based here in Dubai. And basically they govern or create the framework for crypto in Dubai. And it's the first of its kind over here. So it's really forward thinking, just like the leadership of the city. And they've recently come up with an extensive framework. It's the first place in the world that's come up with this framework to govern the way companies in the blockchain space actually operate. So there's guidelines, there's restrictions on what you can do, and there's lots of things they're trying to do to make Dubai the Web3 or part of the make Dubai the Web3 realm. And yeah, I mean, it's a good to keep a close eye on VARA and what they're doing, and the Web3 space, just to inform everyone, is really growing quickly here in Dubai.
Awesome. Thank you, both of you. I'm sure there'll be questions at the end, so just please hang on.
Sure. Thanks.